Today we're on top of some kind of mountain in New Jersey, checking out the remains of some kind of castle. Van Sky, I don't know how to pronounce it. But what we're talking about today is going to be part 2 of how clients waste money when working with e-discovery vendors. Today we're going to talk about processing aspect of it. So just like we talked about before, short disclaimer, what makes sense for some people doesn't make sense for others. So even though we're going to be talking about some of the reasons how we think clients waste money, it may be a strategic decision in the case, and it may make sense to do so. So this is generalizing and we're just having fun. Let's do it. Now, the first thing I think that's unnecessary and wastes a lot of money is custom processing order. Now, there are a lot of times when clients will say, okay, process this custodian first, this custodian second, and then the rest is last, right? That's why they want the duplication to go in certain order, and that's how they want to see it. But sometimes clients go crazy over something like that, and they go super detailed, like, oh, process this folder first, then this folder, then these files, then something else, where it's really unnecessary, in my opinion, to be that granular as the processing order. You still get duplicate custodian, duplicate path, and you'll be able to find the files that have deduplicated out. But it's really unnecessary to go to that granular level and try to pick at an individual file or folder level. And same way clients get carried away with deduplication. They say, okay, here is a folder with files. I want you to deduplicate this folder only against that hard drive of data that you processed, but not this data. Oh, and here is this folder, deduplicate this folder against that folder that you processed over there. And it seems like this kind of granular control and deduplication is simply unnecessary. It just wastes money. And of course, when processing is done, client may see occasional duplicate here and there that slipped through. And so they'll start asking, hey, how come these documents haven't been deduplicated against one another? And you will say, well, they got different hashes. And then they go, okay, well, I understand they got different hashes, but I don't understand what's different about these documents. Can you please investigate? And so you start investigating. Well, it turned out to be there was different encoding, or there's different spacing, or something slightly different about these documents. And I find clients get carried away with that too, asking you to investigate every pair of duplicates they encountered, which again is wasteful. You know, if you see a lot of duplicates, yes, definitely let vendor know so they will investigate and see if there is a problem with the processing settings or something else. But if you're seeing, a few duplicates here and there, you don't have to ask them to investigate every time, because it's going to cost you money for them to do that when it's really unnecessary. It's quicker for you to just skip and move on. Now, one other thing I hear from clients is before processing job starts, they keep saying like, oh, this client is so cost conscious. We need to reduce this data size. They're so cost conscious. We have to do everything we can to reduce the costs. But then they wind up doing these additional things that just add up to the cost of the project. So let's say they send you a hard drive with data and they say, okay, how much data is on it? Well, it's like 800 gigs, right? They're like, okay, well, can you send me a directory list of that hard drive? I want to look at something. So, okay, here's a directory list. And they go, okay, I see some of the folders. Can you take out these folders and resend me the directory list with file size by extension? Okay, here you go. And they go, okay, let's take these extensions out and resend me the report with the files. And so they go into all these steps where you're just trying to knock down the size as much as possible. And at times you are successful at doing it. For example, if you find like a user profile folder and they have a folder with movies that's like, two-thirds of the size of that custodian's folder. But sometimes all these benefits of doing these directory lists and reducing folder size are so small that in my opinion, it costs more to do these directory lists and investigating and looking than it is to actually just process everything and move on with things and not worry about it. And of course, you know what happens after you've done all this filtering and calling and figuring out document extensions and everything like that. Client calls you back and say, oh, you know what? We actually do need files from those folders, so can you go ahead and load it? So now you have a minimum processing charge to accompany that. So that's my list of things of how clients waste their money by doing things during processing stage that's probably unnecessary. If you have any items to add, put them in the comment section below. Don't forget to follow on LinkedIn, subscribe on YouTube. I'll see you next time.